welcome back. It has been a while since I have made a video. My daughter and I both got the flu when we went home for Christmas, so there was no creation. It was basically just survival at that point. I did do a lot of reading while I was home, thank God for my parents. So that was nice. And yeah, I asked my friends on Instagram what video I should do next for my YouTube channel because I had a lot of ideas, but I just didn't know where to go with them. And the 25 for 2025 won by a landslide. So that's what I have over here. To my side is a stack of books for 2025. The 25 books that I absolutely am going to be reading this year, the majority are carryover from 2024, but that's fine. You can only read so many books in one year. And in here, of course, are the books that I didn't get a chance to read last year, books that I realized existed last year, but again, didn't get the chance to read. And then there's a lot of recommendations in here from friends that I've made on Book Talk, and they're books that I absolutely want to get to because they were so highly spoken of that I genuinely do think I'm going to enjoy them. Yeah, that's what this is. And then, of course, I have to leave space for the mood reader in me, which means at any point in time I could pick up any book that's not on any list anywhere that I've created just because I want to. So these are definitely the books that I know I'm going to want to read this year, and I would love to be able to get to all 25. So we'll have to check back in again in December and see how far I've made it. I tried to pick books that I know that I want to read, books that I know that I will enjoy as well because of that, because I don't want to lose my love for reading. And I kind of started to towards the end of 2024. I think getting on Book Talk and posting there, I definitely felt like I had to keep up with what other people were reading. And it's just not my taste. It's not what I enjoy. So 2025 is definitely the year for me to rediscover fantasy and sci-fi. I do want to get into a little bit more lit-fic, and I just really want to nurture the part of me that enjoyed reading so much when I was younger. And these are the genres that I enjoyed reading back then. So we're gonna go with it. And I really think it'll be a good year for reading for me. I will say I never tracked my reading. I didn't know that was a thing, truthfully, until I got on Book Talk and people started talking about how many books they were reading a month and how many books they were reading a year. And I was like, oh, you guys are keeping track of that. So 2025 will be my first full year tracking books, and I'm going to be using Fable. I really like it. I like the way it looks. And despite the drama recently that occurred, I do think it was handled in a pretty good way. So I'm comfortable staying with Fable. You, of course, can track your books however you please. So I'm interested to see how many of these books I get through and how many other books I read too, because, of course, these aren't the only books that I want to read this year. But let's get right into it because I think it's going to be a long video. 25 books is a lot of books to talk about. I do want to preface this by saying the majority of these books I'm going in blind. I don't remember what they're about. I might be able to make assumptions based on the titles, but I don't remember what these books are about. So bear with me, and yeah, I guess we'll find out together. Starting off strong, When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. She's thick, and I do like a thick book. They're intimidating, but I do enjoy them. If you look at it though, it's like skinny things of text, so it's not that bad. I know that there are dragons, and yeah, I mean I know that because there's a dragon on the thing. So or wyvern. I don't know. I know there's dragons and it's fantasy, and I want to read it, and it's a thickums. So I think the second book maybe comes out this year too. So I'm not too sure on that one. But I think I'm gonna enjoy it. I've heard pretty good things about it. I think it's a mixed bag when it comes to When the Moon Hatched. People seem to think that it's like long-winded and a lot of this is unnecessary. Other people really enjoy how much time the author put into building her world and her characters and letting that plot play out. So it's going to be my turn to make my decision whether or not I like When the Moon Hatched, but I do have high hopes for it. It's a really gorgeous book too. One of my goals for 2025 is to complete series, right? Because there's a lot of series from 2024 that are just out there in the world when it comes to my reading. So I'm trying to finish up the ones that I have started. Like I'm working on the Bloodsworn. I have the last book in the Protectorate to go through as well, and I'm trying to stick to like shorter series because this is the year that I also want to get into the Cosmere, which we all know the Cosmere is this like massive universe of books, right? So then I decided that I also wanted to read Leviathan, the Expanse series. There's like 9 books, I think. I have to double check that, but it's not 3 books. There's more than 3 books. but it's a space opera, and I am really enjoying the Protectorate. I think that even though the third book I've heard is kind of a letdown, I think I'm still going to rate that series pretty highly. It's a wonderfully written space opera, and I've come to really connect to a lot of the characters in there. So I'm excited for the Expanse series. I don't know if I'll get through the whole series in 2025, but we will definitely be starting the series in 2025. I really have no idea what this book is about. Welcome to the future. Humanity has colonized the solar system, Mars, the moon, the asteroid belt, and beyond, but the stars are still out of our reach. So I guess they're reaching for the stars still, but we're going to find out. This next book is really scary. I've heard a lot of people who have been completely demolished by it, and I've also heard a lot of people talk about how they refuse to pick it up because they just refuse to go through that emotional devastation. If there's one thing about Ange she does like the emotional damage. I do enjoy it. When done well, it is especially devastating, and I walk away reeling, not understanding what I'm supposed to do with myself. So we're gonna read A Little Life by Hanya Yanganhara. I don't think I said that right. I'm so sorry, but we're gonna read A Little Life this year. I'm so nervous, and I have questions about him. He looks like Jim Carrey. Why is Jim Carrey crying? But yeah. So I think this falls in the genre of like Lit-Fic. I'm not 100% sure if I'm honest, but wish me luck. I know The Will of the Many did not come out in 2024, but it was gifted to me in 2024 by a friend of mine, Water Sign Ree, on Book Talk. And, I've heard really good things about it. And like any book, of course, you're going to have people who are on both sides of the fence. I've heard that it's kind of slow and boring. I've heard other people talk about this like it is the holy grail of books. So we're going to find out for ourselves what The Will of the Many has to offer me. And I do think that the second book is coming out this year, but please don't ask me what this book is about because I don't know. I have a habit of liking things based on maybe what I've heard or what I think I understand from the synopsis, but not necessarily knowing what the book is about. But that's the fun of reading, right? You never know. You never know what you're going to get. It does sound like it's some type of academic fantasy, so we'll see. Gorgeous book. Godkiller. Again, I have no idea what this book is about. I'm gonna go ahead and take a gander. They're killing gods. Um, it's mostly the cover. This one and Sunbringer. There we go. They're gorgeous books. I can't wait to get my hands on the third one. They're absolutely beautiful. Fallen Gods novel by Hannah Kaner. I don't know. We're gonna find out what it's about, but it's relatively short. So I think I'm going to enjoy this. I haven't really heard too many reviews. I haven't heard too many people talking about the Fallen Gods series, so very interested. But it does say an epic fantasy odyssey delivers high action while centering on characters that are not often depicted this fully. I'm here for it. This one is really not going to be a surprise if you've watched my book talk at all. I really went through it with the Poppy War, and I haven't picked up Dragon Republic yet because I'm just so scared. I'm scared for my characters. And RF Kwong is I'm learning she's very talented when it comes to just dealing like absolutely devastating blows. So, we're gonna read Babel this year. I'm real nervous. I know it's some kind of like dark academia, something to do with languages, but what I can tell you is that my interest was originally piqued by the title. So I grew up in a religious household, and I do remember something in the Bible. I don't remember if it was Babylonia or Babel, but it was the Tower of something. And it was a tower that mankind was trying to build to get up to God, to basically be on the same level as God. And they learned the hard way that that's not something that you want to attempt. So for some reason, I associated that to Babel, and I've heard nothing but good things about this too. Like this one, I have heard pretty much all good things. So I'm really excited to read it. As usual, I'm nervous, but I think it's a standalone, so that'll save me because once it's over, right? My next book is An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. I'm not going to keep saying the author's names if I can't pronounce them because I hate butchering people's names. I don't know what the name of the series is. I know that there's 4 books, I believe. But this one is gorgeous and it has some artwork in the inside too. But I've heard really good things about it from mutuals on Book Talk. They've talked about how the FMC is really strong and the story is character driven and they couldn't put it down. So I'm excited to start this. I don't know if I'll finish the whole series this year because it is 4 books and they are kind of chunky, even though, you know, pretty I think they're like double space, double lined, whatever that's called. So, but we'll see. I'm excited for this one though. Suffice to say, I think I'm excited for all the books on this list. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have picked them. Oh, the Daughters War. So I have a mutual on Book Talk again. Most of the recommendations that I got were from Book Talk, and she was talking about Black Tongue Thief. And there were goblins and krakens. I remember that from the synopsis. So I picked that one up, and then come to realize while I'm researching that book that this is kind of like the prequel to it a little bit. It's called The Daughters War, and it's about women leading a war. I don't know what else it's going to take to sell me a book, but I do think that Christopher Buehlman might have cracked the code with this one. I picked up the wrong one for this. I have what's it called? One Dark Window. So what is it? The Shepherd King duology. I never got to it last year. I know it was like really hyped up on Book Talk and people were raving about it and talking about how unique the magic system is and the romance and all of that. So I do plan to get to it this year. I would like to read One Dark Window, hopefully soon-ish. It's from Orbit Publishers. I don't know what it is that they're doing to their books. I don't know what those authors, it's a special breed of authors that publish through Orbit, and they're fantastic. I have yet to read an Orbit book that I haven't liked, so I'm really excited for One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. I know it has something to do with like the magic system has something to do with like tarot cards or something like that, so we'll see. Oh, I read Blood Over Brighthaven, and let me tell you something about Blood Over Brighthaven. That has to be the single most difficult book I think I've ever read. Outside of A Child Called It, I think it was what we read in school. That was horrendous, and they had us reading that in school. But Blood Over Brighthaven was also its own breed of just grim and nitty gritty, and just it was absolutely desperate. I felt so much desperation and devastation reading that book. I honestly didn't think I'd be able to finish it. I think the author tackled really heavy topics, really heavy topics in a really well done way. I would recommend that book to anybody, and I do find that those reviews I've seen that are critical of it, I have a hard time with those because it tends to always kind of center around how unlikable the main character is, when in fact, I don't think you're supposed to like her. And that little bit of redemption that she might have gotten at the end, I don't know that that qualifies as you being likable to me. So I am so excited to read Sword of Kaigen because ML Wong is a fantastic author. I want to say an autobi author for me at this point. We're gonna have to see how Sword of Kaigen goes, but I have heard that this book is just so well done and it's going to rip emotions out of me, very much so like Blood Over Brighthaven did. What I'm most excited for is from what I understand, you follow characters who are dealt different cards in life, and you basically get to watch how they deal with the cards that they have been dealt. And again, I like a character driven story. I like to see the trauma unfold and be dealt with, and I like to see the healing journey. So hopefully this is just as good as Blood Over Brighthaven, if not better. But I think I'm gonna like it anyways because if it was written by ML Wong, I think the writing's gonna sell the book to me. Next one is a book that I picked because I like anime. And for some reason, The Warded Man, the cover reminds me of Kaiju number 8. It's an anime that I think recently came out. Um, and I watched it and I was enamored with it. I loved it so much. And for some reason, the dude on the cover just reminds me of it was the first thing I thought when I saw this in Barnes and Noble. So my understanding is that there are demons that come out of the ground and like attack people. So I guess that we're gonna follow the hero as he tries to fight these resuscitated demons. I don't know if that was the right word I should have used. I don't know. We're gonna see. I really like it, and something about that flop. Oh, a good flop will get me. I look at this. I even have the tabs ready to go for this one. Yeah, we're definitely reading this. I think I might have gotten the second book as well because I love the covers of these. So I will let you know how that goes. To keep kind of in line with wanting to explore sci-fi a little bit more, I'm definitely going to be picking up Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, my best friend and my daughter's godmother. So this is how important this person is to me. Read this on audiobook and she raved about it. Something about the alien that the guy's talking to. something about the alien and like how cool it was to listen to it or something like that. All I know is that if she says that she really liked a book, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to read it. So Project Hail Mary is going to be read this year, and I'm definitely going to be doing the audiobook to go with it. I'm an audiobook girly now. Again, I forgot how much I liked sci-fi, and reading the Protectorate series and reading Ready Player One kind of like reignited that in me. So I'm really, really excited to kind of continue to explore that and see what parts of sci-fi I like the most and which parts are kind of just like, I like those, but I could do without too. So I will keep you posted on this one because I've also heard really good things about this book. People go crazy for the alien, so I guess I will see if I like the alien as much as they did. Just read the back of this one really quick. Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bencroft. Again, this was from a mutual on Book Talk who talked about this book very highly, and I was like, I'm gonna read it. So I got it. Like as he was talking about it, I was purchasing the book from Amazon. Something about a guy who loses his fiance is what I'm understanding. And there's also a Tower of Babel in this. So we'll see. I love the cover though. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I don't know. And it's an Orbit book. Again, Orbit books are just like going to be a hit, so I'm really excited for these. I'm absolutely going to be starting the Broken Earth trilogy, right? Broken Earth trilogy this year. I was gifted the entire trilogy by two very, very close friends of mine, people that I met on Book Talk who have just become so much more than just Book Talk friends, right? But they gifted me the trilogy, and I'm really excited to read this. I've heard amazing things about the author, and I've heard amazing things about the trilogy itself as well. I think I might be wrong, and I won't be too disappointed if I am wrong, but I do believe that the main character, the FMC, is older in this book. She's a mom. So I'm really excited to read about characters that are not necessarily teenagers saving the world because while I have no problem with that, I do think that there are other types of characters out there, and it's wonderful when you get to read about them. People who are nitty and gritty and a little bit more realistic while also existing in these fictional worlds. I'm really excited to start this book and see what it's like to read about characters that are not those cookie cutter characters. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that sometimes you want cookie cutter and that is comfortable and it does feel nice to read about characters that you kind of can depend on. But I think it's also really great when you pick up a book and you're reading about somebody who's in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, somebody who lived an entire life and thought they got out and now they got to jump back in, or somebody who's raising a family while trying to save the world. Like, that's interesting to me. Maybe it's because I'm a parent, or maybe it's just because I'm kind of tired of reading about teenagers, but I'm really excited for this. Another series that I really want to start this year, mostly because I read the, what is it called? The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I thought it was really good. I liked her writing. I thought it was fun and entertaining, and I can't wait to get to the second book in that series actually too. But then I realized that she had Daughter of No Worlds, and I do think this is older than the Serpent and the Crowns of Nyaxia series. There we go. That's easier. I think it's an older book. It came out first, but I'm really excited. Some people that I have seen review the book have kind of compared Tisana to a character from one of the Sarah J. Maas books, The Assassin. And I can't remember her name, I'm sorry. But I'm really excited because I have no intentions of reading that series. But a good assassin story is like, what? You can't pass up on an assassin story. So I think, from what I understand, again, I'm going into most of these books blind because I don't remember anything for shit. But I think that this might go along those lines. Like, she might be sent to kill somebody or to like throw somebody's plans off track. I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. That's part of reading. And I think all three are included with Audible Plus if you have the membership. All three of those audiobooks are there for you. You don't have to use credits. So I'm definitely going to be doing immersive reads for these. To go along with breaking out of reading just my usual genres, which, as you can tell, are sci-fi and fantasy, I'm going to be picking up My Dark Vanessa this year. I've heard that it's a very dark, heavy book, and it has a really big impact on the reader, not necessarily positive. My understanding is that you read about a young woman that was groomed at one point, and I would like to read things that are not so fantastical, right? So we're going to get into this, and I am praying that I can stomach it. I'm not an easily triggered reader, but there are certain topics that will turn me off and pull me out of a story. and there's really no going back from there. But I've heard really good things about the story and about how the author handles the heavier topics in here. So I would like to get to this year, and I would like to finish it. We'll see. I'm not one to force myself to read something. I learned my lesson last year with a specific book, put me in a slump after that. So Orbit's back at it again. The Rage of Dragons. I've heard nothing but good things about this. I do know, my understanding is book one is not heavy on the dragons, but that book two is, and it's basically just a revenge arc. This entire series apparently is just about revenge, and I'm here for it. I genuinely like the idea of somebody who is out to avenge someone or something, right? And dragons, you're gonna throw dragons in? Like, come on, dog. You know that I'm gonna pick up the book and I'm gonna like it. So we're gonna read this year. That's really all I know about it. Revenge and dragons. I don't really have anything else. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the book that has some roots in African mythology, maybe, or African history, one of the two. So we're gonna find out, and I am going to confirm once I actually pick this up and start reading it. The next book I have is a book that I picked not necessarily because I want to read the book itself. That wasn't what attracted me to it. It's because of the author. It's an author who has become an auto-buy author, and I haven't finished The Bloodsworn yet. I still have to read The Fury of the Gods, but let me tell you something. I have been hooked since book one. And book one was really just groundwork. In a sense, you could almost say it was kind of like slow and boring. I personally loved it. I loved getting to see these characters and getting to know the characters, getting to understand their environment, how they came up and where they're going, all their missions, before you get into book two, where you really start to see them fighting for the things that they want and fighting for justice. And I'm not going to say justice, but you know what I mean. It's been fantastic. I really enjoyed book two. Book one is still my favorite, to be honest, but I really enjoyed book two, and I still have to get to the Fury of the Gods. A part of me is scared because I'm worried for some of my favorite characters, and the other part of me just doesn't want it to end. I don't want to leave that world. I want to stay there. But when the time comes and I do have to finish that series, I'm going to be picking up Malice, which I think this is part of the Faithful and the Fallen series. John Gwynne has a way of writing Norse and Viking mythology that is just, it's addictive in my opinion. And his fight scenes are insane. Like, to be reading a fight scene and feel like I'm watching it like in the Vikings show that is on TV, that's crazy to me, especially because I've only seen like a season of that show. I never finished it. So I'm absolutely going to be picking up Malice after that. I don't think that there's like a reading order to his books. I hope not, because I don't plan on following it. But this will be the next one. I have no idea what it's about. I'm sure it's about Vikings, and hopefully there's like dragons and shit, but I guess we'll find out. They're definitely going to war. Like they're fighting some shit. So yeah. The next book that I want to get to in 2025 is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. It's the Dandelion Dynasty. I who was it? It was somebody. I was watching somebody on BookTube, and they talked about this series and just how fantastic the imagery is, and I was hooked. It really doesn't take much to convince me that I might want to read something. So, the meaning of justice changes in a revolution. I don't know what that means. But we're gonna find out. I think it might have roots in like Asian history, maybe. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say that because I genuinely don't know what these books are about, but I'm excited to read it. Mostly because it's something about imagery, and I love a good book. I love a book that can really paint a picture for me. Again, I'm leaving my usual genre for this one. All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. I read The Wall of Winnipeg and Me in 2024. It is my favorite contemporary romance. It's such a slow burn, guys. It's such a slow burn. I honestly thought that I was going to like grow old before I got to the part where they like maybe got together, even though they're married the whole time, but like actually started to develop feelings. It was so worth it. My wife, it was so good. And The Wall of Winnipeg and Me is when I realized that I do prefer my romance spice free. I'm so sorry, talk to the wall, because reading is subjective. I do prefer my romance spice free these days. I don't know what it is, when it happened, but it might change because it obviously changed from liking spice to now preferring no spice. But I'm really excited to read All Roads Lead Here. I've heard it's her typical slow burn. I have heard that this is the slowest of the slow burns. We're gonna see. I'm going to be the judge of that because the person that told me that hadn't read all of her books yet. So we're going to see how that goes. I think that she's a nanny for him. I don't know. Yeah, she's a nanny for him, and there's a bit of an age gap. But as long as she's like in her 20s, I don't mind age gap. The age gap bothers me when they're like teenagers and he's like 40, and I'm like, I don't like that. But I don't think that that's what's done in this one. So I can't wait to read this. One of my other reading goals in 2025 is to read older books and series. Books that I never got to when I was younger, either because I wasn't allowed to or because other stuff came up and I just picked that instead. But one of those is Eragon. I would like to get to this series this year. I would like to read Eragon this year. And I kind of would like to get maybe through the series in 2025. We'll see, because despite it being very YA, these pages, there's a lot of pages. There's a lot of pages. But yeah, I mean, the people that I have heard talking about this series, I don't know what it's called, the inheritance cycle. The people I have heard talking about it do talk about how it's very much so kind of like starter, the starter dragon series for readers. It's what they would recommend if you wanted to get into fantasy and you liked dragons. So I'm really excited because I love dragons. And yeah, I watched the movie when I was a kid, but I don't think that the movie has anything to do with the book. I don't know. I guess I'll find out when I read it, and I probably will rewatch Eragon because I just like to watch the movies after I've read the books. The next one is kind of in line with John Gwynne. I've never read anything by Joe Abercrombie, and I've heard really good things about his writing and his books. So I picked up The Blade itself, and I think I also have A Little Hatred. So I'm not sure if there's a reading order. I guess I should look into that because well, I don't necessarily always have to read books in order if they're not like a series. I do think that sometimes there is a little bit more of an emotional payoff when you read the books in a specific order. So I'm going to do some research on that before I pick this up, but I am absolutely going to be reading a Joe Abercrombie book this year. I think it's going to be The Blade itself, as long as that follows that, reading order that's out there, that if it even applies. I don't know. It could be one of those reading orders that's like casual, where like you don't have to read in this order, but this is the one that would do the most damage. In that case, I'm just going to read this because it's what I have in my hand and it's what I put on the list first. So, but if not, I'll let you guys know. The next book kind of goes in line with that, wanting to read older books, older series. I think this one has been out for a while. I don't think the series is completed. When I was doing some research on this one and deciding if I wanted to read it, turns out that there's supposed to be a third book, but there's no ETA on that. So I don't know how I feel about that, but I got it already. And I got book two because why not? Mind your business. But I know that you follow this guy, Voth, Kavoth. I don't know how to say these people's names. I guess I'll watch a video and see how other people say it, and then I will just run with it. But he's on a journey. He's on a journey to do something, to get something, to survive, and I want to go on the journey too. So this will be read this year. This is another one that kind of goes in line with wanting to read books that are older, or series that are older as well. It's a YA book. It's The Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I never read it. There's a lot of books that as a kid I didn't get to read, either because religious reasons I wasn't allowed to read it, or because it just wasn't something that I knew about at the time. So I'm really excited to start this. The hold for the audiobook just became available on Libby. So I'm going to do an immersive read for this. I will let you guys know about it. I don't know what the name of the series is, but I've heard really good things from the people that read it when they were a kid. And they've talked about like rereading it as an adult, but they don't know. I don't know. So I never read it as a kid. So hopefully I like it. That was like a really long-winded way of saying that hopefully I like it because I'm an adult and it's YA, but I do tend to like YA books. I think that sometimes in YA books you get a little bit more focus on the characters and less so on other parts of the book that in adult fantasies kind of sometimes seem to like overshadow the plot and characters, but we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully the audiobook is good too. And the last book on this list is a book that I have been staring at for months. I stared at this book for months. I don't know why I was so scared to pick it up, but it's Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I don't know. I think it was. I heard one too many negative reviews about the book, and it suddenly kind of scared me. And I was like, well, I don't want to pick it up to find out that I don't like it. And then I reminded myself, you've read plenty of books that other people said they didn't like, and you thought they were great. So just pick it the fuck up. So we got Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I will be reading it this year. I also have Hellbent, and I think I have the entire Grishaverse series. Don't ask how that happened because I honestly can't tell you the answer, but I would really like to read Shadow and Bone after I finish this and Hellbent. I've skimmed all of the books that I have of Leigh Bardugo, and I do feel like I'm gonna like her writing style. Um, but it's very interesting because this is an adult dark academia fantasy, I think, while the Grishaverse is YA. Um, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, these are the 25 books that I'm absolutely going to be reading in 2025. I'm a little nervous. I don't know if I will set like a schedule to get to them or if I'm just going to kind of keep them separate from the rest of my books so that they're always at the forefront when I'm picking what I want to read next. I'm really excited for 2025, especially because I'm really focusing on reading the things that I want to read this year. I think that 2024, I kind of lost my way, which is fine. I think that everybody probably goes through that at some point, and that's when they discover what they actually love and what they actually want to read. And I think that's just what I had to go through, of course, like any other creator who like jumps into a niche. You kind of got to figure out where you belong once you're in there. But yeah, I definitely belong in the sci-fi fantasy side, and we got a little bit of lit-fic, some romance in there too. So we'll see how it goes. I will be posting reviews of the books that I do really enjoy, of course. And if there's any books that you guys recommend, anything you think I might like based off of all of this yapping I've done, please let me know. I would love to add to my TBR because I have no respect for my TBR. But yeah, I will see you guys soon and happy reading.